everyone, and welcome to the One Stiletto in the Grave June Spencer special. Now, I know we're on a summer break and we've only just started it, but yesterday the divine Sonny Ormond was all over the telly and the radio talking about the retirement of June Spencer, who plays Peggy Archer in The Archers, Peggy Woolley in The Archers, and has indeed done so for about 1,000 years and has retired at the age of 103. Hello, Sonny. How are you after all of your media appearances?
Well, darling, I'm faint. I'm faint. I'm exhausted, for all the publicity yesterday. It was great fun, actually. It was great fun because, of course, we all knew that Peggy or June was about to retire, but it was announced to the world yesterday, and I mean it's like the world went mad.
Yeah.
It was the Peggy Woolley special, wasn't it? All day, quite frankly.
It was, and you say we all knew, but you didn't tell me, did you?
Well, of course I wouldn't tell you. I didn't dare.
Yeah.
I didn't dare. I was sworn to
secrecy. She never tells me anything.
That's not true, listeners. That's
and
not
she was
true.
Secret.
I was secret. Mum was the word. Literally, mum was the word.
Yeah. So you were on the BBC News at 6 o'clock, weren't you?
I know.
Well, about 25 past 6 actually. But you were on the BBC News at 6 o'clock yesterday. Catch it, viewers, on the iPlayer if you've not seen it yet. So how much notice did you get that you were going to be on the news?
Very little. In the morning, I got a phone call from the Archer's office in the morning to say, are you free? Would you be happy to appear on the 6 o'clock / 10 o'clock news, etc. And I was doing my ironing at the time. And I thought, blimey. Yeah, I was. But I'm trained as an actor to say yes to anything. So I said, yeah, and then thought about it afterwards. You know what I mean? Anyway, so then I was told that somebody would ring me from the news department, which they duly did, very nice producer. And she said, would you like to do this on Zoom or would you like to do it live? And I thought, blimey. So I said, I thought I'd be doing it on Zoom, you see. So I said, well, I don't mind. I mean, I thought I was doing it on Zoom. She said, well, it'd be really lovely if we could do it live, couldn't we? I said, well, yeah, that's fine. So then she said, well, somebody will be arriving with you sort of mid-afternoon. We will have a cameraman, we'll have a producer, and they will be there. And I said, do you want to do it inside or outside? And she said, oh, well, it'd be quite nice to do it outside, really, wouldn't it? So I thought, oh, that's marvellous. So then I rushed into the garden and put some chairs out under a beautiful shady tree, and indeed that's where we did the interview, which was a lovely interview. We did about a 5-minute interview actually, but there's only about 15 seconds on it because they have very little time. But it was lovely, and it was very enjoyable to do, and I was delighted to do it, I have to say. And then a little bit later on, they rang again and said, would I mind doing an interview on the News Hour on World Service? So I did that also. So you can hear that if you
did.
If you go on sounds. Yeah.
You are marvellous on that as well.
Well, thank you, darling.
This is interesting. You are a professional. Yeah. So your first thought was, let me go and get a chair under a shady tree in the garden. And my first thought would have been, what am I going to wear? So,
well, yeah, I did think
that. Did you take everything out of your wardrobe, try it on and throw it over the floor and try something else on? Yeah,
you should see the state of the bedroom. I still haven't cleared it up. But fortunately, I'd had my hair done the week before, done my roots done and all that. So that was all right. I wasn't worried about my roots showing or anything. So I found a nice little dress with a collar because I didn't want my neck exposed. I'm a woman of a certain age now.
Did you not?
No. So, but it was all fun. It was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And because I am devastated that June's left, actually. Because in the 22 years that we've been together, we've built up quite a relationship as mum and daughter. And I'm a bit bereft because I won't have that relationship anymore in Ambridge. I mean, she was about the only character that could admonish Lillian. She used to take her down a peg or two. Nobody else can really do that. And you do build up a relationship over a period of time. And we have many scenes and we have many stories together. And I liked her very much as a human being. So I'm really going to miss just her being in studio. But I totally get why she's retired. 103. I mean, she should have retired, really, shouldn't she? Donks ago. Yeah. It's a bit bonkers, isn't it? It really is bonkers that she was still able to do it. And actually, she still could do it. It's just that she has decided that she's going to withdraw. Because some actors couldn't because the voice goes or whatever. And I know that's what she's worried about. She's worried that the voice will lose its strength and energy. But at the minute, it's still okay. But I get totally why she wants to retire and, not be worried that the voice won't work anymore and the stress of recording and all that. But yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it, at 103 to still be working. Amazing.
It is. I mean, I can understand how you're feeling, because when you work with somebody, all of us have worked with people, I'm sure, for a long period of time, and then when they leave, it's like losing part of your family almost, isn't it? But
it is.
Often, in offices, what we do is have a sort of leaving do, and everybody gets together and somebody makes a speech, and there's generally cake, and then everyone goes to the pub. But presumably, that hasn't happened in this case.
No, that hasn't happened.
So
she's written a beautiful letter to everybody.
Without that little ritual, has she?
Yeah, she wrote a lovely letter, because we all get what's called an insider letter that always goes out with our squibs, to fill us in on really what's going on in the Archers and Ambridge world. And in our last lot, there was a lovely little letter that she had included, which she had sent to everybody, which was great. But no, you're right. We don't get to have a party and say goodbye. I suppose I'm thinking back to her 100th birthday when we did have parties, and we had a big party at the mailbox to celebrate. And I was very honoured because she personally invited me to her own little party at her home. That was lovely. And but yes, so we do have a big celebration then. But no, she's quite pragmatic, June, and I think she's got sound judgment, and I think she thought, no, this is the time to bow out. This is the time to actually go. But it is a shame, yes, that we won't be able to raise a glass of wine or champagne to her. But we can do it privately, and we all do.
It is. Well,
and we have,
I'll do one later, shall I?
Will you do that? Oh, well, that's marvellous, yes, because she would appreciate that.
She would appreciate that, I think.
And we do have an Archers WhatsApp group that, cast, and that certainly was a buzzing yesterday, when it was announced that she was going, because I'm not sure that everybody knew that she was going. And I think for the younger members of the Archers team, it's quite an achievement. You can't believe that somebody can still be working at 103. I don't think I'll be working at 103. I don't think I'll be standing up at 103, let alone, being able to speak in front of a microphone.
It is quite mad, isn't it? We were working out that when she started, we were both aged -3 when she started in the Archers. She's been there for our entire lifetimes.
Yeah. And before all that, she'd been working quite a lot. I mean, as a radio actor, because that was one of the things I loved talking to her about, because her memory is still as strong as ever it was. She's as bright as a button. And of course, it all used to be live radio then. It was before television, so radio was the thing that everybody tuned into, but it was live radio. So, the scrapes that they got into with that. And when they first started to record the Archers, it wasn't quite live, but it was almost live. And she was telling me that they would rehearse all the scenes in an episode, and then they would record the entire episode from beginning to end. But if anybody fluffed in any of the scenes, they had to go right back to the beginning of the episode and start recording all over again. So can you imagine what that pressure must be like? I mean, I would have been on Valium all the time. I don't know how I would have coped with that. And of course, you were really persona non grata if you did fluff. And you had to go right back to the beginning. But I think that was why she was always incredibly professional when you worked with her. She was absolutely on top of the scripts. She was always so enthusiastic about storylines, but she was very accurate. And I think it goes back to those days. It must do, when she had to be completely spot on and accurate. Because if not, you probably would be fired, quite frankly, if you made too many fluffs. And they were all apparently...
Can you imagine having the last sentence? Sorry.
Can you
imagine having the last sentence in an episode and just screwing it up?
And you fall over. Can you imagine? I mean, because we do all the time. I mean, not all the time, it's Judy, but I mean, you do. It's easy for it to happen sometimes. And I mean, I once worked with a lovely radio producer many years ago in radio drama, Kay Patrick. And we would always rehearse the entire piece that we were doing, and she would actually record the scenes as we went along. But then what she would do is say, right, I want to record the entire play, whoosh, 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 one scene after another, blah, blah, blah. And that was pressurising, because you really had to be on your mettle, and it was hard for all the spot people in studio as well, but you just rushed through. So I got a little taste of what that pressure must have been like, actually. And apparently it was all recorded on huge discs, she said. Yeah, amazing. So she's seen so many changes.
She has. I just can't imagine it, because if you just coughed or dropped your script or something,
absolutely. Anything, you could accidentally bashed into something. Yeah, you'd have to go back to the beginning. Yeah. And I think it was quite, because Godfrey Baisley was the original producer of it, and I think June said he was quite tough chap. So I'm not sure it was the most relaxed environment in which to work. But no, she, and sometimes we're playing two parts in the same piece as well. So, the pressure was on. But she did a huge amount of work. Oh, and of course she used to write those monologues for Cyril Fletcher in That's Life and all that,
Did she?
Yeah. She used to, She used to write all those. Out. Yeah. She's very surprising.
I know.
She's got a great sense of humour, June. She always maintained that with Peggy, Peggy had no sense of humour. Peggy has no sense of humour.
No.
But she doesn't really, does she? But June certainly has a sense of humour.
Oh, golly. Yeah, you can't imagine Peggy Woolley ever writing a joke, can you?
No, you can't.
Or even laughing at one.
No,
absolutely
not.
I
mean...
anyway, listen, going back to your interviews yesterday, what I'm really interested in here is that it's quite unusual for you to be yourself on TV and radio, isn't it? You're usually being somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yes, I suppose, but it was all right because I was talking about my friend June, and so that was my focus really. And that was fine. I was really happy and delighted to be just talking about her and sharing stories about her and why I'd miss her, because I am devastated that I won't be doing any more scenes with her. I really am. And because we've had some lovely scenes over the years, and a variety of scenes, I mean, I remember when Lillian was having the affair with Paul Morgan, and we had some quite tough scenes because she disapproved of that terribly, and she reprimanded Lillian a lot. And then
so did we all do.
Well, quite right too. I can't imagine why. But then more recently, I had some really tender scenes with her with regard to Alice and the alcohol storylines, because of course Jack Archer, the first husband, was an alcoholic, and she shared with Lillian some of the reality of what that situation was like, and of course Lillian and the rest of the family never knew, they were kids at the time. It was very touching, all that, and she played it beautifully, like I thought she played the very last scene that she did really beautifully, which was with David Troughton as Tony. She wants to get money to have a window in the church because of the twins. But I just thought she was very tender. She's still on it. 103 to still be on it in the same way. It's amazing. It's not just saying the lines, she's acting.
It is extraordinary.
Wonderful. It is.
Really, very much so. So, sorry, I just want to, because I've got all these questions about your interviews. Did they give you kind of notes beforehand and say, can you talk to us about, we want to talk about funny stories or how you feel about this, or did they just launch into it?
Well, I did ask the producer who rang me earlier in the day to say, would I be happy to do it? And I said, what will they be asking me? And she said, probably how you feel about June leaving and, and all that. But certainly when the producer finally did arrive in the garden, because I've done these interviews before, and I did ask her, and I got the gist of the questions that she was going to ask. And it was the same, of course, when I did the radio interview in the evening for World Service. You get wise to it. In the early days, I would kind of just be open to it, and I could be asked anything. And think, it's not that you're not prepared, but you just need to get your head together, get your thoughts together. But it was Paul Henley, wasn't it, who interviewed me on World Service, and he was lovely. He threw one googly at me, which was, how would you describe the Archers to somebody who'd lived in a foreign country? And right, okay, well, anyway, I think it sounded all right.
It did.
It didn't sound right. Yeah. So, but yeah, and I also wanted to check with the producer in the afternoon when we were filming, just because I knew it was going to be a very short segment, because it always is at News at 6. They have very little time to get stuff out.
Sure.
And so I was checking, just how long she wanted me to answer for and how many questions she had. And I was, when I actually saw it at 6 o'clock, I thought they're never going to get to me, because a lot of it was live. They'd only got to overrun.
Yeah.
By a couple of minutes, and there wouldn't be anything there. That's always the risk, isn't it? But it was fun, and of course she was all over the papers, wasn't she? Or Telegraph, Guardian, you name it. She was
front
just
page.
Everywhere.
Front page.
Front page.
She should be a dame, shouldn't she?
She should be a dame. I really feel that she should. I mean, she's got a CBE, she's got an OBE. And it would be a lovely hat trick, wouldn't it, to be made a dame. Dame June Spencer. It's got a brilliant ring to it.
Dame June Spencer.
She must be one of the oldest, mustn't she, actors ever to be working, ever? I mean, extraordinary.
I think so, yeah.
Extraordinary.
And to be in demand, it's not like people really... The Archers really wanted her to be on the programme. I'm sure she'd been happy to carry on working. They'd have had her on it till she was 110.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Jeremy, our editor, I mean, just adore. Well, we all adore her. And because and she fulfills a very important role in Ambridge, in a way, that kind of matriarchal, traditionalist kind of, And I mean that's the thing about her as a character. She started off really as a Londoner, didn't she? And I think over the years that accent has went. But she was an ordinary girl, wasn't she, from London? And she's, through the decades, gone through different sort of phases. And that must have been really interesting for June as well. And it's also about style. Radio acting style changes through the years as well, and how you adapt to that. And just recording and, everything. She's seen so much. But I, she'll be happy. I think now the pressure is not on her. But my goodness, she's given us a lot of wonderful storylines, hasn't she, through the years? And it's a great legacy. She's a real legend.
She really is. Well, it does mean there's a space now for a new matriarch in Ambridge.
There is.
So
there is.
I don't know how Lillian fancies that.
Well, I think I'm rapidly getting there, aren't I, really? Possibly. Do you think? The old matriarch in stilettos.
Do you think it...
I
think a matriarch in stilettos would be...
Yes.
Would be quite... I can't think of the word.
The only problem is,
good.
Will I inherit Hilda Ogden? It would be quite good, wouldn't it? But will I inherit Hilda Ogden? And how will Ruby cope with Hilda Ogden? That will be a problem.
Are you just now telling the nation something? Because as far as the nation knows, Peggy's still going on. But she is. She's just going to be a silent character.
Well, we don't. I mean, I don't know. I was asked this question yesterday by both the television people and by the radio. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with her. I just know that she herself, this is June, thinks that it would be lovely if maybe Peggy just gently moved into the Laurels, which is the retirement home in Dorsetshire, and saw the rest of her days out there. And I'm thinking that might be quite nice, because you never know, if she gets a bit bored, she might just come back and do the odd little episode or scene.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But
anyway. And she'd sort the Laurels out, wouldn't she, Peggy? She'd get them organising proper dues in there.
Yeah,
she'd get it spruced up.
But just before we go...
Have those carpets hoovered.
She certainly would have the carpets hoovered. She would be doing it herself. As a listener, which you have been for many, many years, I mean, how do you feel about, losing Peggy?
Well, as you say, she's just been one of those voices that's been there ever since I was born, ever since I first started listening to it. So I'm hoping that they're not going to kill her off, so that she'll still be referred to, and we can still think of her living her life with Hilda Ogden, the vicious cat. Quite apart from anything else, there's going to be an absolute bloodbath when she dies about who gets her money, because I never quite understood where all her money came from. But she has been like a sort of an ATM for the whole family, isn't she? Whenever they've got some lunatic project or some balmy business, off they go to the bank of Peggy, and she doles out a few hundred grand or something, and they then promptly lose it in some ill-fated scheme. But she seems to have a bottomless pit of money. So if they, when she finally does go to meet her maker, there is going to be an absolute bloodbath about who inherits, I think.
Yeah, there could be.
Absolute
bloodbath. I think I'd better get into training for that now, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They will.
Limber up.
But, so... Well done, June Spencer, is all I can say. 103.
Well done, June Spencer. Dame June Spencer to us, if
Dame
not to
June Spencer.
Else.
Thanks for listening to our One Stiletto in the Grave podcast. If you'd like to see behind-the-scenes clips and bonus content, please visit our Facebook page, One Stiletto in the Grave podcast. And if you'd like to ask any questions, follow us on Twitter at OneStiletto65. This podcast is produced by Raggedy House Productions and the music composed by Tom Smith. See you next time!